Oscar Palema.
Look at that!
Wow.
Delmo.
Welcome, everybody, to the first annual episode of Over the Cap, presented by nobody yet, me. I am your host, the outspoken Mike Val, and this has been a long time coming. Our success with the Bone and Zano Zone, we are just taking a little bit of a break there. Scheduling is kind of put a little bit of a wrench in that. We are not done there, but with schedules, people here want to hear me rant and just go off on a tangent about everything. So I figured, why not do it myself? So that is where Over the Cap has started. And really quick, before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to a couple people that have helped me with this. Alex Aguilar's Pro Shop, Strike Effects, too hot for that. Big shout out first. We're going to go to Doug Ligori in Long Island, the Bolage guy. Doug helped me make the logo for this, gave me some ideas. He will be probably a weekly or bi-weekly spot. He will be coming on and talking about local events and such, plugging the tournaments going on in the area. Second one, we are going to thank my near and dear friend, Mr. William Harris. He has been very supportive on the back, giving us ideas on how to do this with content and whatnot. So big shout out to Will. And that's really the only people I want to thank. And I'm going to thank myself because this was my idea. So let's not thank anybody but myself. This forum is going to be bowling related, obviously, but it's going to be anything goes. It's going to be no holds barred. The gloves are going to be off. This is not going to be your G-rated platform. And if you guys know me and whatnot, the gloves will be down. I'm going to stir the pot. Good conversations, good debates, and we're going to have one tonight, which I started about a couple months ago in the summertime, and we never got into finishing it, but we're going to get into it tonight. We will discuss anything underneath the sun, from bowling to sports to gambling, fantasy sports, movies. We'll go into old television, wrestling. You want to talk about it, we will talk about it here, and that's just it, because I can go on a tangent and a rant about anything underneath the sun. Without any further ado, my first host or co-host of this series, one of my dearest lifelong friends, another guy who likes to stir the pot. He has his own show, Straight Up 5, the one and only Johnny P. Jr. What's up, bro?
What's up, Mikey? It's great to be here, and absolute pleasure being the first guest on your brand new show. And by the way, I love the logo.
The logo's cool. Did you like the intro?
I thought the intro actually almost brought a tear to my eye, because I remember each and every one of those shows.
Yep.
And it took me a second to realize, I'm like, oh shit, it's Over the Cap, and all these shots are over the cap. It's so ironic.
To know us, being the Met fans that we are, there's no better song than to play the trumpets coming into this show.
Absolutely. It's pretty fantastic, sensational.
That was pretty cool. And I wouldn't have anybody else for my first guest but you, pal.
That means a lot.
Well, there's nobody else that stirs the pot quite as much as you do. So I think
I like to
dabble.
I like to dabble, and I like to basically try and explain everybody's viewpoint on one subject. Like that movie, Vantage Point, I think was the name of it, where they analyzed the exact same crime from 8 different sets of eyes from all around it, to try and decipher the true meaning behind what actually went on. So I think that I like to take that approach too in this, because there are a lot of ways to look at the shit we talk about.
So I'll give you one to start. Now, I'm not very good. I'm still learning this whole platform thing, like the whole thing, and we know that I'm not very tech savvy. Justin was the brains of our operation, so I'm still kind of learning this. So we like to say it how it is. So, John, what do you feel about? Oh, why is that background? Oh, we can't do a background. All right, can't do that. There was a meme going around, John, and see if I can get it in here. You had actually sent this to me the other day, and you know which one I'm gonna try to pull up. Can I pull this one?
Yeah,
up?
I'm already. Yeah, perfect.
And I apologize that we're in the middle of the screen. I have to learn this still. So, well, folks, for the few people
That's
that are
pretty
watching,
good.
I'm gonna get the hang of this eventually. But everything is going right in practice, and as soon as the arrows come up, all right, let it rip, John.
Yeah, so one of the things that I will I'll be public about is I can't stand ignorance and stupidity. So if you put that meme back up, I'm 38 years old, and I've been bowling since I was 2.
Mm-hmm.
And not once in my life at any level of competition, whether it been in junior bowling, bantams, youth, high school, college, amateur events, high roller events, PBA events, I have never once in my life heard anybody at any level say, I struck every time in practice, and as soon as the arrows came up, I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Because it doesn't make any friggin' sense. Like, I strike every ball in practice. I won practice session, and as soon as the lights come on, now I've heard that in every one of those avenues. So the fact that that meme is created and so many people jumped on the laughing at it and commenting, "Oh, I know that feeling," this and that, and totally going with it. I'm sitting here saying, everybody's jumping on the back of this meme that, in my eyes, makes absolutely zero sense because I've never once heard anybody say as soon as the arrows come up. And what does that mean? Like, in your bowling center, do you not have arrows until the game starts? And then
like you're bowling the Peterson.
Like, it's like the tee box that brings the ball up as soon as the game starts. The expression itself makes no sense to me. So it takes everything under the sun for me to not pop on there and write,
Stop.
I don't know what this fucking meme means. Can somebody please at least can somebody please openly say that this meme makes no sense? Then you could say whatever you want. I think what it was supposed to say was this, and in such said case, yeah, I feel this exact way.
And what people also don't realize that the picture they put with Dell, that was not the start of a game there for Dell.
Right. That was a last shot. It was a fill ball of a game.
It was a fill ball.
To lose the 91 Fairlanes Open if you really wanted to get technical with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when it comes to shit like that, that's where even if you attempt to say to me another side of it, I'm not going to listen to you because whatever context you're bringing to the table, it just does not make sense. So
it doesn't. And yeah. Everybody's a bowling genius or a bowling staffer now, so it doesn't make a difference.
Totally.
All right. So we started this in the summer, remember? And we never really finished it. So we were doing our best bowler out of every state. We did the Eastern region, and people were reaching out to me. You didn't finish. Got a bunch of other regions to start with. And what do you want to do? How do you want to start this? You want to pick a state? Pick a region?
It depends on how long you want to stay on tonight. Do you want to
an hour?
Do you want to revisit what we've already done?
Sure.
Do you just simply because the East, or do you want to leave the East alone and revisit it on a later show?
We can do it really quick. I mean, the East, I have them all.
Okay.
So, well, let's see how good your memory is.
All right, then.
Jersey. Best out of Jersey, as John's going to Google.
Go to my spreadsheet?
Yep, go to your spreadsheet.
Excuse me. New Jersey. Yes. Okay.
Well, that's the obvious. New Jersey and New York.
I mean, I didn't have to look at the spreadsheet for this one, but I wanted to at least be on
make sure
point,
he was still on the list
somewhat. Yeah.
Right.
I think this is a no doubter. It is 100% Parker Bowman III.
Yep, and New York is Roth.
Yeah, we did determine that Roth was the greatest out of New York. Absolutely, yes.
Pennsylvania.
We had the real deal, Mr. Bill O'Neill.
How sick is that we bowled junior as that guy, and he is like one of the best to ever throw a bowling ball. We grew up with Bill.
It's so crazy, man. three distinct memories. Three distinct memories. One, he shoots 825 in the semis of a JBT at Carolier to take the lead away from me, and I bowl him in a title match, and he shoots 260. The year that he rung that 10 throwing a big blue at Saginaw Valley State University.
Oh, yeah, that was a good when he was in college, yeah.
Yeah, to throw it that good in the clutch with everybody rooting on you. And then having lunch with him, Belmo, and Fagan at the Plastic Ball Championship in Babylon. And to sit here and see him, I mean, guaranteed Hall of Famer, going to go down as one of the best of all time. And he's just never changed for as long as we've known him.
Remember when he used to hold the ball all the way out here? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And hold it. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember Bill made a bet one year at the High Roller. He bet, and we were just talking about him. He bet Joe Stillman $500 that Joe couldn't eat 100 chicken nuggets in 15 minutes at Sam's Town.
That's a guaranteed win for Stillman.
And it was a guaranteed win for Stillman. Bill took the loss on that one.
I think I could do that.
Yeah, well, Joe took that one like it was nobody's business.
I think I might do that without the bet.
Yeah. Who do we have out of Maryland? How good are you out of Maryland?
This is so funny, ironically, because I had a conversation with our best out of Maryland earlier today.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, Danny Wiseman. He showed me some photos. I'll have to send them to you, Mike, of his new trophy room that he's building down in Florida. It looks awesome. All the big checks up on the wall. So yeah, we had Danny Wiseman from Maryland.
Oh yeah, Delaware.
The late great Jim Johnson Jr.
Very good. Rhode Island, another kid we bowled juniors with.
Yeah, talk about the son of the. Am I allowed to curse on your show?
Yeah, we have the gloves are off on my program here.
All right. Well, I won't do it this early in, but talk about the talent that we bowled against in juniors. So yeah, Rhode Island, John Van Hees, another PBA champion.
I will tell you, I think our class, I guess you want to call it, when we were there, O'Neill, Fagan, John Van Hees. We go a little bit later. We go to O'Grady. He was there for a while.
Well, hang on. Don't forget about like Tim McAuliffe and John Asbeatty.
Tim McAuliffe, John Asbeatty. Louis Franzetti.
Yep, absolutely.
Scott Thornton.
Yep.
We had a lot of talent.
Adam Subak.
The late Adam Subak.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of superstars in our generation.
Yeah, we sure did.
I'll argue this, but this is another one for another day. I'll argue this with anybody. I think the generation before now, like our generation, much better players than the youth coming out now. And I say it this way, and I'm no disrespect. You can't shoot a spare.
That, and there's seemingly a lot less tools in the bag these days.
Yeah.
For like, in other words, because of the way the game is, it's not really the kid's fault, but what the game has turned into with the throwing the charcoal urethane and changing lane conditions before you even start, kind of have changed the script of the way bowling is played these days.
There's no hand positions anymore. No, they don't understand what it is to trick your hand or to change your ball roll. They don't have that.
I just watched the 2000 National Championship, Norm Duke. And in, I think, the first or second match, Chris Barnes is throwing a danger zone HPH, and he has his hand dead flat. And I mean, Mike, he's piping it up 15, just dead forward.
Like this.
Then you watch another show, or the opening of your show, you got him throwing it over the cap. I mean, the kids, they may still be able to square up and get in, but the tricks back then, they don't really, I guess, need them nowadays because they can do it so much more with technology and raw power with the change of the game to two-handed.
Also, I want to give a shout out to Rad Rob.
Hello, Rob Francois,
who assisted me today in my technology issues. He was my IT support today. Big shout out to Rob. Yes. We went to that.
Speaking of which, for everybody listening, I'm going to do a little snip here. Make sure to check out Straight Up 5 Live on my Facebook page or YouTube tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to unveil my top 10 bowling balls of all time. We did. You
didn't get to the top 20?
We did the first 10, but I have 2 balls tied for 10th. So this week is going to be 10-1. So check that out tomorrow.
They are not all B branded balls. You went across all brands of all time, correct?
Yeah, keep in mind there was only a very short stint of my entire bowling career that I threw something that wasn't a Brunswick product.
Pearl Blue Hammer.
Huh?
Pearl Big Blue.
Yeah, like for
Yeah, that
instance,
was a good
when
ball.
there was a period where I threw ebonite and hammer stuff for a while. I drilled. I really liked that V2 Strong, and I drilled like you said, the Big Blue and the Big Blue Pearl.
Tour Power. Remember Tour Power Day?
Yeah, the 2 years when I drilled the Storm balls, I was heavy into the. I started when the X Factor came out, and then I drilled like the Boost, the Blaze.
They were good bowling balls.
The last Storm ball I think I actually drilled was the Triple X Factor, the Pearl one.
That was kind of a square.
Yeah, so, and I never. Yeah, but that was there was a period where I threw other brands, at least for a short period of time.
If I'm gonna guess, and I'm not trying to take your thunder away here.
Yeah.
Your top 10, you're going to put in there an Attitude 3. If I had to guess, this is going on how I know you. A Teal Rhino is going to be in that top 10. And if I had to guess, the original LT48, the rubber one, has to be up there. Stay tuned tomorrow to see if I'm right.
You can stay tuned. The only thing I will tell you is one of those balls I actually had ranked number 16.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. That was the Attitude 3. That one came in 16th.
All right. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to tune in tomorrow.
You'll have to tune in.
Who do we have out of Massachusetts? We had a good argument out of Massachusetts. We had it between the owner of this pro shop.
Yes.
And Wayne Webb.
Yeah, I was in our previous discussion on this one. I was extremely, what's the word? There was no changing my mind, but my mind had to be changed because one of my best friends on this planet and groomsman in my wedding, Alex Aguiar, to me has always been one of the best talents to ever walk the planet.
Yep, absolutely.
It just so happens that he happens to live or be from the same state as Wayne Webb, who is a 20-time PBA champion, PBA Millionaires Club Hall of Fame member, and so we unfortunately, I mean, I love Wayne Webb, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately, we had to give him the win for this state.
Vermont, we actually got a guy after. We didn't know anybody out of Vermont. Somebody had emailed me after we did this. John Wilbur.
Mr. 900.
Mr. 900. New Hampshire.
Radical Conspiracy.
Yep. New Hampshire was your guy. You gave me the guy out of New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah. Because he makes the best steak tips ever. The Mr. Steve Hottie. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does something with Coca-Cola. And that's like one of his main ingredients in his steak tips. He's out in Arizona now. He's closer to me than he is to you now.
Yes, he is. And he ran that great tournament at Strikers up in New Hampshire for years.
Oh, that was a glorified regional that was never a regional. I mean, that was a beautiful event that he ran in that building.
Maine was the hard one. The guy that we got out of Maine, I always remember him bowling out of Tacoma, Washington, Alpharetta, Georgia, and Boca Raton, Florida.
Anchorage, Alaska.
But he was born in the state of Maine, Brian Voss.
Absolutely.
And then Connecticut. There's no doubt.
We had to give it to Mr. Michael Lickstein.
Is there not a nicer man on the planet than Litch?
If there is, I've never met him.
He's the only guy I know that will bowl against you, root for you, have his hand out every shot, and rip your lungs out in the same breath.
Yeah. So he's a truly genuine, kind killer on the lanes.
He's an assassin.
I think he wants to win, obviously, but I don't think he wants to beat you to have to do it.
That's a good point. And he had the great mullet for God knows how long.
Oh, they're the greatest. And he's got great taste in music.
Great taste in music, and he always throws that old equipment. I don't think he's drilled. He uses that. What's that? EPX? Is that Columbia hunk of garbage?
Yeah, the thing that smells like dead ladybugs.
Yeah, that's the one. And he still throws that to this day.
And he loves that blue one when they came out with all the balls that started with the letter R.
The roll.
The roll. I was going to say, not the ricochet, not
the rip. The green one was the rip.
The green one was the rip. The arc was black. The ricochet rebound was black pearl.
I watched Evan Diamond win a sweeper.
Evan Diamond
in Staten Island with that green thing, that rip. The only person I ever knew that made that ball work was Evan Diamond.
Yeah, the only person I ever saw win a PBA title with that ball was Ricky Ward.
Look at this, Litchy.
Heck yeah.
There is many stories about the Lich.
Yeah, you can go on and on for days with him. He's a fantastic player.
That's our East. John, pick a state or pick a region, and then we'll pick a state.
I'll go Central.
How about we start with an easy one? Let's start with Minnesota.
Well, I'm going to give this one to of the names that we have on our list. I mean, unfortunately, I couldn't actually dig up any other Minnesota legends, and as far as at least the way we're going with this whole thing.
Yeah.
There are two obvious ones in there. One of which is Charlie Tapp, and the other being Matt McNeil. I'm going to give my vote to Charlie Tapp.
Okay.
On this one, simply because his career spans longer than the amount of time that Matt's had in his career, and I also respect the journey of the PBA Tour more so than being recognized and highlighted for one extremely significant act in being the USBC dominant champion that Matt McNeil is.
Well, Matt McNeil's going to go to the USBC Hall of Fame. We all know that.
Well, sure.
Do you think he would win if he bowled on tour? Do you think he would? I think he's talented enough to win on tour.
Now, I mean, obviously, he's anybody of Matt McNeil's character or caliber is capable of succeeding on tour. Do I personally think the elements of the PBA Tour call for his kind of game? Absolutely not.
No.
Now, if you'd asked me the same question in 2001, Matt McNeil would have won 10 titles on tour, and I'm talking about when guys like Chris Hayden and Rick Lawrence and Mike Scroggins, all of a sudden these guys that go right or left to right or dead straight up the lane are winning PBA titles that you never heard of. That's kind of when I would expected Matt McNeil to win because he's accurate and good at doing that.
He's going that way.
Yeah. Nowadays, or in previous years, you put him up against Parker Bone and Jason Couch. To me, Jess Stayrook, John Mazza, Ricky Ward, Mike Albee. He doesn't have a prayer in the world. In this generation, I also think that he's at an extreme disadvantage because the game calls you to be like Buttriff, Jesper, and guys of that caliber on the left side of the lane. Spencer Robarge. Guys like that are the guys that are going to Dio Bernard, Wesley Lowe. Those are the lefties that whack them out there nowadays. Again,
Kevin, what's that kid's name? The
Kevin Williams. Another one. That's the left-handed game that is getting to the top these days out there. It's hard.
How good is Anthony Pepe? And he's wiped out on tour.
And I think Anthony Pepe is. I think Anthony Pepe has more tools than Matt McNeil, but he's kind of stuck in that zone where he's more like a Parker where he's very precise. He relies on precision, and because he's so precise, when they open up, he can whack them. But he has gentle ball speed with not a significantly high rev rate. His angles have always been very straight through the front part of the lane. These are elements of the game that are not working in the game right now. The guys who slow hook it and almost like throw it outside or almost deliberately throw it into the OB with softer speed and a lot of hand are the guys that are whacking them out there right now. Those, you got to remember, everybody's game caters to a specific kind of way of bowling. And a lot of these fly-by-night lefties are lefties that don't have established careers like the elite, like a Parker and an Albee. My dad. Yeah. Actually, I'm not even going to throw my dad in.
Throw Couch in there.
Earl, Couch, Albee, and Parker.
Yeah.
God, those are the exceptions. PA. Very much the same way Duke, Weber, Walter Ray, Barnes, Belmo are exceptions to this very same thing.
Answer this one.
Nowadays, Bill, no, there's not. And that'll be the first thing that any lefty tells you is that they love the motion of this new resin ball. They love the motion of this new resin ball, but unfortunately, I can just never use it. Hacky Hanrahan. He's the most vocal about it in his YouTube video. He does all these showcase videos. He gets on there And the one thing that he always says is, unfortunately, I can never throw this ball on tour. Why? Because us as lefties know there's not enough of us to ever create that shim down lane that happens on the right side of the lane. So to answer that question, no. I mean, even Parker's throwing purple hammers out on tour now. Jason's certainly whacking him on the senior tour with purples. My dad has purple hammers. But yeah, if you're not a Brunswick staffer, you have a pitch black. If you're on Motive staff, you have whatever color tank they come out with this year. And that's really the way that it goes out there on tour. And now what the really young lefties are trying to do is now when the left is really shut out, now they throw it back up.
Yeah.
The Southern Nevada Masters was this past weekend. It's the first event in the history of the South Point Bowling Plaza that I've seen the left not only shut out, but completely wiped out of the tournament.
Really?
60 entries. Guys like Mike Harder, George Gohagan, all these good lefties are bowling in this event. And Dio Bernard was the only lefty to make the top 16 because he went plus 135 for 10 games, throwing it back up, starting game 3. That was the first time I ever saw a lefty try and get off the left side of the lane. So look out for lefties doing that in the future rather than, having to deal with the fact that
Simonson doing it on the right side.
Exactly. And now a lot of righties have started to do that for sure.
Yeah.
Especially locally.
Can you imagine when this never happened 30 years ago on tour? Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. And then in the midst of all of it, I mean, I don't want to be an asshole here because I truly love bowling and think that anybody that wants to enjoy it should have the opportunity to. But you want to also talk about making a mockery of something that half the country doesn't believe is a sport anyway. Go bowl 300 backwards. That we can talk about that all day. I'll stick to my guns on that one if you want.
How is that even possible? How is that possible?
I mean, you got to be, just like anything else, you've got to be consistent. You have to know what to look at. You have to know where to stand. You have to know what it feels like to know the launch angle when you let it go backwards. I get all of that.
But what are you targeting?
I don't think the guy throws it dead straight. I mean, it goes right at the pocket. So I don't know what he's doing, but I know that unfortunately that's the kind of mockery in this game that gives it a very, very bad image in my eyes.
Can you play golf blindfolded?
I can make contact with a golf ball blindfolded, yes.
But knowing where it's going.
Did I get to look at my target the same way he does before he turns around?
Yeah.
Like, in other words, can I get in the tee box and give myself a target?
Yeah, and then blindfold yourself.
Yeah, if I just like anything else, with time, eventually I would learn how to make flush contact, and I would learn how to feel differently rather than using hand-eye coordination. I'm assuming it's the same thing that happens to somebody who actually is blind. But just like anything else, over time, you would know what a good shot feels like blindfolded because you could tell by the way it feels through your hands.
Yeah.
Your other senses are heightened. So, yes, over time, I'm sure I could. Do I ever think I could go out on a golf course and shoot my handicap? Do I think I can go shoot mid-80s? Are you kidding me? No. It's impossible.
I have no idea. Speechless. Impressive, but doesn't really make the sport look any stronger.
Exactly. It's an impressive feat to say the least, because bowling a 300 game is still moderately impressive to some extent. You still have to have some kind of skill to get up there and repeat a shot close enough 12 times in a row.
John, I bowled a King of the Hill Friday night, and I had 40. What did I bowl? I bowled 44 and 79 the first two games. Okay?
144, 179?
2 and 2. Respectively, 2 and 2.
Okay.
There was a kid on the other end of the house. I had no clue this guy had 579 for 2. Nobody made a sound. Nobody clapped. It was the most silent 279 300 I've ever seen. Nobody. It's so routine.
Out here too, man.
Yeah, like bowling 300 used to be like the whole house stops. It gets behind you. It's like you have the front nine. Just go. Don't cut me off. Like nobody cares about it anymore.
With each passing year, the one thing I've noticed, you got to remember, Mike, you know me. I'm like you in the respect that I'm extremely observant, especially of other people in their element. The biggest thing that I've noticed, other than the fact that the game has gotten too easy, is with each year that passes, technology takes over the human brain just a little bit more in every aspect of its existence. I.e., what I mean by that is, as opposed to 20 or 25 years ago, now everybody has one of these.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens now in the bowling alleys is not only are people not conversing the way they used to, you don't even see half the amount of teams having a beer and socializing at the table with each other in between frames. Now they sit down and they're either making a Facebook or Instagram post, or they're filming a video, or they're changing what song they're listening to in their headphone. 9.5 out of 10
another
times.
thing. Oh, that pisses me off too.
9.5 out of 10 times, these people don't even know what their teammates are bowling or what they need to win a game because they are so involved in their own world. They are, just like the Eagles song says, we are all officially prisoners of our own device.
Now, JD, now underscores mean something, because when you go post it on Facebook, you use that ball with a smooth through the heads, a strong mid lane reaction, it pops in the back.
I like how
means something.
I like how the new norm of bowlers is the two phrases that are used that I can't fucking stand. Sorry for my first F-bomb on
You're
this
good.
show.
You're good.
Over the cap.
Over the cap.
When they put bowled the yada 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 event at Keystone Lanes this past weekend and managed to come away with the win.
Managed.
Like, you're right, bro. You managed to come away because this week you spent 4 solid days working 3 hours a day on spare shooting. You physically got yourself ready and mentally ready. You practiced with 19 different balls, a span of 12 hours over 3 days leading up to this weekend tournament, and you managed a victory.
Mr.
Thanks
X
so much, bro.
He worked on Specto all week.
Yeah, right. We all know exactly what happened that week at that level of bowling. Let's be completely honest. And the second one, oh God, I can't even remember what the term is, but it's so overused on Facebook. But shit, I'll think of it later.
Yeah, you'll think of it eventually.
But it has something to do with the scores. Like, man, this ball really came in the clutch tonight. I was able to pop off one of my best sets ever, and it's like 860 or 870. Thanks to this brand new ball. Thanks so much, Motiva. I managed to come away with, or I was able to pop off one of my best. Just the way that they say it, I just don't like it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or when they write that. It was a real grind out there today, but I got to keep my head up heading into tomorrow. You averaged 240 today. You averaged 240. Sit down. Nice bowling. That's enough.
I heard a guy in my Sunday morning league this week. All right. My hand to God. He said, we're waiting to get paid off from brackets and whatnot. And he's standing next to me and he's talking to a guy. He goes, I had no carry today. He goes, if I carried, I should have shot 800. Okay. So the guy goes to him, well, what did you bowl? 672. So you're 128 off of getting to 800. So you had no carry. If somebody said, if I say to you, John, I should have shot 800 last night, I had no carry, you have to at least suspect 770, 60, 70, right around there.
I feel like you may have bowled a triple get 258 and left 2 solid 8s.
Yeah, that's no carry. To bowl 670, sir, stop.
Yeah. Or I like when people say, I almost shot 300 tonight. I only missed twice. And you look at the score sheet and they have like an open frame in the second and they missed in the 9th.
Yeah, for 230. And they averaged 230.
Like, what are you talking about? Stop, please.
It's comical. It's very comical.
Agreed.
But that's the state of bowling right now. You know who did not have this when they bowled?
Who?
The guys in our Missouri state, John.
Oh.
That's a good segue into this because
very nice.
We have 6 guys out of the state of Missouri. 2 of them. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
2 of them are probably turning in their grave with the way bowling has become from what they knew it as.
Agreed.
The other one of them is still competitive.
Yep.
And another one on that list, at age 80, I would still take over majority of the bowlers today.
Can't say I disagree with you there either.
Do we want to list the people out of the great state out of Missouri?
Why don't you do that?
Don Carter. Dick Weber. Pete Weber, Bo Burden. This one was I want to say an odd one. In doing some research, their family name is very well respected in the Midwest. Ray Orff.
Okay.
And the last one being Ray Bluth. Now, if we're going to narrow this list down, I have 4 that I would debate.
Okay, so we both agree on Carter, Weber, and Burton.
Those are my 4 as well.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Orth or Ray Bluth.
But they are not in the same sentence as these other 4.
No.
Like,
now,
yeah. Okay.
How do you figure out, or how do you even break, how do you break it up?
It depends on your criteria. If you're going strictly by bowling talent alone,
Pete
not
Weber.
I mean, it's if you're going by, in other words, what I mean by that is, as a bowler, you can't really dissect who's the best of these because they're in different times,
Generations.
different eras. It's a different game entirely,
Mm-hmm.
But regardless of that, the one who is the greatest in my eyes is Pete Weber.
He's the most natural talent ever,
and he's won the most through the most changes of the game and the different eras of the game.
And he went through a major change when resin came out.
Yes, he sure did. He went through the transition from plastic and the super duper early teen days to urethane to resin to particle back to resin. I mean, he's, no matter what you put in front of Pete Weber, he can kick the shit out of you, and he does it wearing $35 generic shoes.
That's the best part. I have Velcro on him, probably.
Yeah, he's so above and beyond any talent we've seen other than a Walter Ray, an Earl Anthony, or a Jason Belmonte. And it's crazy to sit here and say that the 6-time All-Star champion and charter member of the PBA and first ever recipient of $1 million contract in any sport, and I'm speaking of Don Carter, is not even a thought in my head as far as the best bowler. It's even crazier to say that one of the greatest ambassadors the sport's ever seen and 26-time PBA champion and father of Pete Weber is also not in the running in my brain. Another fellow charter member of the PBA. Yeah. Bo Burden, 17-time PBA champion.
Though. He's a little different, though, John.
Why do we say this?
Was Bo won 17 times, right?
Yes.
When I interviewed Bo on our show about a year ago, I didn't realize this. He has 10 Eagles from the then ABC tournament.
Well, I didn't know that either.
He has 10 Eagles, including a Masters, and then throw in all of his PBA accomplishments. So 17 titles. I think he won on the senior tour a couple times. And what a lot of people have said, he is the most accurate bowler to ever throw a bowling ball.
Oh, he's certainly up there. I mean, remember how long he held the 4-game TV record at 1050 as well.
Yeah.
And doing that with a red
hammer.
Columbia white dot. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Black
hammer.
Hammer.
Black Hammer, right.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, I had it mixed up.
And he beat Pete to win that.
Yeah, and he was super jacked on that telecast, too.
Bo's a monster.
Yeah.
Still
to this day.
You see videos of him bowling in Florida?
Shooting 300. He's 80.
He told us he holds the Florida state record for the highest average ever for a season in the state of Florida. He did it when he was 72 at 247.
My God.
72 years old. He averaged 247.
Where's the first asshole that says, yeah, it's because that bowling alley's walled?
And that was funny. For anybody who wants to watch, they go on the old Bone and Zano channel on YouTube and find the Bo Burden show. He openly challenged anybody that shot 900 to bowl him for $10,000.
I like that bet.
I like it too. And he openly said, no matter what you put down, you can't beat a tour guy. Period.
Agreed.
And he's right. If they're easy, they're going to find a way to strike. And if they're hard, you're not beating them. And I would still take Bo at age 80 to split a board if you have to.
Mike, give me a second. I want to turn on the light. I'm losing light out here on the West Coast.
John's struggling out here. to answer your question, JD, we did bring up the backwards bowler. And it was interesting, to say the least. And then we discussed if Johnny could hit a golf ball blindfolded as well. And he looks like he's back.
I'm back.
So are we going to say Pete Weber is the best bowler to ever come out of the state of Missouri?
I have to say that because I think Pete's top 4 of all time. Well, 100% top 4 of all time.
He's on the top 5. And the Mount Rushmore, and it never was.
No doubt.
You never put Belmo on the list, but you put Belmo on the list now, top 5. Weber's right there.
Yeah.
Pete's right there. I mean,
yeah, it's eventually what I presume will eventually happen is someday they'll redo the 50 greatest of all time like they did about a decade ago. And the hardest argument there at that point is going to be who's number 1. Is it Walter Ray, Earl, or is it Belmont?
Or Belmonte, yeah.
And I think I don't see Belmo slowing down at all. You know, earlier on in his career, the big scare, at least with the vets or the veterans of the sport, was, well, your body can't take that physical torture day in and day out. You know who else they said that about? Tiger Woods. And granted, Tiger eventually did have physical issues, and it did happen at a certain time in his career. But at that point, either way, at that point in your career, even if Tiger's career ends and he stops winning, nobody's ever going to win as much as Tiger won.
No.
And that's what's happening with Belmo. Even if Belmo only lasts until he's 45, he's going to win another 20 titles before he's 45. He's going to win another 5 majors.
Can I give you a Belmo stat? And I'm not going to say who gave me this.
Go ahead.
This stat or this fact was given to me by an employee of a bowling ball manufacturer. I'm not going to say which brand, but an employee of a manufacturer. How many titles does Belmo have now? Does he have 30 yet?
No, he's got 20-something, I thought.
Let's say 25 titles. You know he's only won 2 titles under 38 feet in length? 2.
Really?
Yeah. 2.
Well, I know his first win was short on one lane. Does that count?
Yeah, that's one of them. And then the other one he won on the old Viper, which was like 37 feet.
Okay.
He's won 2 titles under 38 feet in length. Interesting.
That is extremely interesting.
Is that the way? But now he has urethane in his bag, and I mean you can't stop that.
And plastic.
How do you you can't shut him out?
Never. And I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean,
no.
If it doesn't matter if you're not as good as everybody else on one specific pattern when you are so much better than everybody else on the other 9 out of 10 patterns. That is a very, very interesting stat that you just said. I'm curious how many titles Walter Ray has when they're longer than 44 feet.
Yeah.
You know, that's if you want to flip the script a little bit just to do a comparison.
You could do that, or you could say how many titles Walter Ray won pre-resin, post-resin. But
yeah, that's true.
But see, that argument is always going to be there. Walter Ray won Player of the Year in 1986 with urethane. So would Walter Ray probably have won 45 titles with urethane? Maybe not.
Yeah, Walter Ray also made the TV show at the Plastic Ball Championship, and you needed to average over 235 to do that week.
People don't realize Walter Ray's won a national tournament throwing a plastic ball on TV. Nobody realizes that either.
Totally.
Yeah, and would Walter have won 45 times with urethane? No, he probably would have won maybe 20 times, 25 times. Weber with urethane, he might have got close to 60 titles with urethane.
Oh yeah, gosh, yeah. Especially if he had that purple angle in his bag all the time. He really threw that, a Bobcat. What else did he even really throw?
Or a Sumo, a Ninja. I mean, a black angle. I mean, him. I know we're going off the beaten path here. Ballard would have won 50 times too with urethane.
100%.
David Ozio, Wayne Webb, David Ozio. You know, those guys were killed by resin. We can talk about this all day. But those are also guys that know how to bowl. You know what I mean? And with respect to the guys out there now, I don't think the generation now can carry those guys' shoes. I don't.
No, like I said, it's a totally different game. Then the scariest part about it is the mental approach to the game has changed so much. All these kids now are so level-headed. They don't even, I think, really know how to get nervous or angry anymore.
They don't fry.
They don't fry at all. It's almost boring.
And back then, they didn't have 7 ball reps in the back to go run to and say, I don't know what to do.
Exactly.
It was I have a U dot, I have a U dot with surface and a wine U dot. What am I doing?
Exactly.
Make it work.
Right.
How about the great state of Illinois, John? I only have 3 people out of the state of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
2 Hall of Famers and 1 guy that should be in the Hall of Fame.
Now we are talking about from there originally, not relocated and has made that place home for.
Yeah, I would say original or bowled out of there for majority of their career. I think that's the better way to say it.
Well, the only name that I would really add to what you already have on your list.
Is it a female?
No, it's a male.
Okay.
And that would be Sean Rash, just because he's lived there for a little over a decade.
Okay.
But he could also, I guess, be a topic in another
Alaska.
state. Okay, then Then in that case, for Illinois, I mean, you cited Steve Jaros, Jim Stefanich, and Carmen Salvino. So you got a lot of history.
Yeah.
You got a lot of history here. I mean, Steve Jaros and Jim Stefanich both have televised PBA 300s, even though Jaros' show was blacked out due to filming issues.
Yep.
Jaros is a major title holder. I believe he won the Tournament of Champions, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Millionaire.
And, PBA millionaire. I mean, he's been around the block 8 weeks from Sunday. Jim Stefanich, again, earlier generation, different game, but beautiful style. Definitely recognized by his peers. Titleist, televised 300. And he won a new Mercury Cougar with that 300.
Yeah, and he fell into the crowd. He tripped the 4.710 when he shot 300.
Yes, he sure did. That was the ugliest 12 shot.
Oh, my God. That was horrendous.
Pretty crappy. And then Carmen Salvino, another charter member of the PBA, has done a lot for the game. Renowned bowling ball designer.
Yep.
And, so this is where, again, I'm torn the other way now because I've actually had the privilege of watching some old videos of Carmen Salvino on VHS.
Yep.
Never got to watch him live in his heyday. But Carmen did do things to the bowling ball that nobody really could at that time, except for maybe Bill Lillard or people like that.
Yeah.
But he could make a bowling ball dance, and he could make pins dance in a time that was kind of crazy. Not to mention he was a fantastic showman. Yeah, he was a great, great showman. But 17 titles for this cat, too. I mean, it's very hard for me because I've watched Steve Jaros, but to me, Steve Jaros has always been really, really, really good. He was never great at the pinnacle level.
So
I hate to say that, but he was really, really good at the pinnacle level, but he was never like one of the greats on the pinnacle level. I understand that he was the high average leader in the late 90s at times. I understand that he made the most cuts. He was money leader at times, but he doesn't have 17 titles.
No. And when we had Jaros on with Walter Ray about the Hall of Fame. Justin and I felt that Jaros is the closest to going to the Hall of Fame without being eligible. Was he only has 8 titles, not 10, 1 major, not 2. He has 43 regional titles. 43. And he told us that some of those regional titles that he's won now are considered national titles, or they're national stops.
Oh, wow.
So, I get what you're saying. He's not at that level, but I mean, my God, he has over 50 career PBA titles, regional and national titles.
Yeah, that's.
But I think Carmen would be the guy.
Yeah, I gotta take Carmen on this one. But, I don't know how many regionals Carmen has. I don't even know how many regionals Carmen bowled.
I don't think it matters.
I do know it's very, very hard for me to not give him the cap on this one.
Let's get out of this region, shall we?
Very respectful.
Let's go to the Midwest. We'll do like 3 more, and we'll call it a day.
Sounds good. Why don't we start with Ohio because I'm a Youngstown State grad, and I can only imagine where we're going to go with this list. And I'm actually kind of curious what your views are on this compared to mine. I'll read the. Want me to read the list this time?
Go right ahead. Yeah, go right ahead.
The nominees for best bowler out of the state of Ohio are
as follows:
the late, great Roy Buckley,
Hall of Famer,
the late, great Dave D'Entremont,
Double D,
Mike Durbin, 3-time Tournament of Champions victor, Steve Fair, king of the heavy pins at Western Bowl in Cincinnati,
owns the Hoinky heavy pins,
Ted Hannes, the
Sweaty
man
Teddy,
who defined drifting,
and facial hair,
the Chief, Brian Himmler,
Chief.
Jim, I have the best mullet in the history of mullets, Pensac. And not to mention the most, I love watching Jim Pensac bowl.
Oh, yeah.
And the co-pilot of the LT-48 namesake, Tommy Hudson.
Did we leave anybody off?
From
that
Ohio?
You could think of from Ohio?
That I could think of? Yeah. Adam Barta.
Wow.
Nice little 12-6 curveball for you there.
You gave me that one there.
Yeah. I got just like Alex Aguiar in Massachusetts, one of my other, in my eyes, top-ranked amateurs of all time. I mean, Adam Barta, Tony Manna, Bill Hoffman, Mike Newman, guys like that.
We're gonna do that amateur show eventually.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Now, I will go. I'm looking at the list.
I got to look at it too.
All right, so I'm gonna knock off 5 guys.
All right, I will too then.
All right, I'm gonna knock off Fair. Even though he won the Masters, he won a couple titles on tour. Steve Fair, I'll knock him off.
Me too.
Sweaty Teddy.
Me too.
Chief.
How many are here total? There's 8, so you're knocking off 5, so you're leaving it to the top 3?
Yeah, I got 9, but I put Barta on the list.
Barta
makes 9.
I am not. Oh, okay. Barta makes 9. I am not knocking off the Chief.
Okay. I'll knock Jimmy Pensac off.
Me too.
I'm gonna knock Tommy Hudson off.
Me too.
Roy Buckley, I'm kind of on the fence about.
He is a
Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer more so in my eyes for his personality and his dry sense of humor over his bowling skill.
Okay.
And if we're talking about the best out of the state, I think it's safe to say respectfully to Roy Buckley that he's not included in this talk for the state.
But I will say, yes, Adam Barta now is going to go and keep Adam Barta. Keep Mike Durbin. And I would keep Double D. Those would be the final 3 that I would say out of the state of Ohio.
Okay, well, including Barta, I would keep D'Entremont, Durbin, and Himmler.
Okay, what's your case for Himmler?
I think that the Chief has been one of the most underrated players for most of his career because he kind of took a while to get started, and he never won as much as he should have. You know, there were a lot of earlier shows, you know, back when he's throwing Forest Firestorms and Blue Thunders that Brian would make television virtually every other week, and he could never shoot 170 on TV.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But do I consider him the best in the state? No, I can't do that, but he's certainly going to make it to the next tier of the voting in my eyes. But he's not my number 1 pick here. To tell you the truth, Mike, my Adam Barta I also can't put in the greatest from the state simply because, again, most of his accomplishments are not at the pinnacle level, and I feel like we would be skewed if we accepted Wayne Webb over Aguiar, and then we accept somebody like Mike Durbin or Dave D'Entremont over him here.
This is the good Matt McNeil debate because Barta is kind of like Matt McNeil. He's done it at the USBC level.
Yes. And
I know Matt's made a couple shows, but never at that level of the top.
Adam Barta was my old league teammate in a trio league when I at Wedgwood Lanes in Youngstown, Ohio. I've seen Adam Barta pipe it up 2-3. I've seen Adam Barta in front of the ball return. I've seen Adam Barta shape a lane any way he damn well pleases. His game mirrors to me. The points of his game mirror Marshall Holman. I don't compare Barta to Matt McNeil the way that I compare Aguiar to Barta. So I respectfully say that to me, Adam Barta's talent runs way deeper than the USBC tournament itself. But as far as the best in the state, here's my predicament here. Mike Durbin, one of the greatest bowlers that's ever lived. And, winning the Tournament of Champions 3 times. I believe Jason Couch is the only other one that's ever done that. Again, the easiest tournament to win on tour, also the hardest.
Yep.
Dave D'Entremont, I think when he passed had 8 titles. He won the Tournament of Champions in 96, so he's a major titleist. Double D's career was kind of wishy-washy for most of it. He was pretty good in the urethane era, and then when track released the NRG and the critical mass and the code red,
and the synergy,
he really blossomed there in the mid-90s. And he fell off a little bit in the later 90s, and then early 2000s, we saw him make a little bit of a comeback on tour.
Yeah, with the Exempt tour, yeah.
Yeah, until his untimely death. But to me, D'Entremont was physically one of the most gifted talents and athletes, especially for a big man that I've ever seen. And put him and Steve Cook in the same realm of precision and efficiency of motion for a big man.
Yeah. I think Durbin's the choice out of Ohio. Little trivia for you. Do you know Durbin won the Tournament of Champions using a 3, a 4, and a 5-step approach?
I did know that. Yes, I did. That's
impressive.
That's pretty ridiculous.
Rubber, and then urethane, I believe, is the other ones.
It's pretty impressive.
How about we move next door to Indiana?
Okay. This is a tricky one.
Very tricky one.
All right.
I got 3.
There is no others than what is on this list. And of the 3 you have...
Can you think of anybody else out of Indiana?
I thought about Indiana endlessly. I couldn't even think of an amateur player that should get thrown in the loop with the other names that we have already identified in Indiana.
Where's Ronnie? Ronnie Russell's out of Indiana, isn't he? Is he out of Indiana?
The country boy?
Yeah, yes. Is he out of Indiana?
Yes.
I couldn't.
And I think EJ Tackett's in Bluffton, Indiana. So that would be
okay.
That's where Bluffton is, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
So technically, you could add EJ to this list, and I think EJ is
he's deserving of it.
Even though Ronnie's my homie, and I love Ronnie to death, I do think that even Ronnie would admit that EJ is a little bit better player than he is.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, Ronnie's trying to make a golf career now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem here is you've already got Don Johnson, Mike Albee, and Don McCune on your list. And to me, first off, congratulations to Don McCune for winning Player of the Year in the early 70s. And, whatever anybody says about what he did as far as dipping the ball and softening the cover in order to do that, let's everybody remember it also wasn't illegal.
No.
It was just highly volatile and dangerous, and you could actually kill yourself doing it if you did it incorrectly.
And he did it, man. He did it perfectly.
And yeah, I mean, if we're going to be honest, if it was below hardness level, I don't know. But either way, I'm not going to consider one year where something like that played a major role in the outcome of that tour season as far as identifying a all-time great. Especially when you put him in there with 2 26-time PBA champions from both sides of the lane.
Now, this is the good debate. This is going to be our first really good debate. Okay. How do you figure out? How do you separate Albee and Don Johnson?
I'm gonna again put it
different eras, right?
Yeah, different enough eras, yes, but both through similar products for a decent chunk of their careers. Now, granted, Don Johnson was exiting one era while Mike Albee was entering the beginning of a new era.
Yeah.
But for these two, and again, I'm going based off facts and how I genuinely feel about it. My pick is Mike Albee. My pick is Mike Albee because one of only 3 to win the Super Slam in bowling, and that's all the calibrated majors. And before they made one retroactive, as a matter of fact, for that. Yeah. Mike Albee is a champion with plastic, urethane, and resin, very much the way that Pete Weber is. And to me, to win 26 times, be ranked in the top 5 on the PBA Millionaires Club for the majority of your career, at least 7 of which you are atop the list. And to be that consistent over that many changing generations and to seemingly throw it every single time you needed it in every single pressure situation you ever encountered. No disrespect to Don, but every accomplishment that Don Johnson has, Mike Albee also has. Don Johnson has a televised 299. Mike Albee has a televised 300. Mike Albee is a 8-time major champion. Don Johnson 6. I personally have to go with Mike Albee on this one, even though Don Johnson was my dad's roommate for 10 years on tour.
I kind of have to agree with you on that one. I hold Albee in a very high regard.
100%.
And if you made the Mount Rushmore of the lefties to ever bowl on tour, Earl, number 1. Albee's number 2. Parker's number 3. And then it becomes like pick your poison after that.
100%.
And you could go down the line, but Albee was an assassin, and he did it, very quietly, not a lot of emotion. But my God, I mean, he did it with he was a pure shot maker.
I sure was.
And if I had to have a guy throw it for the money, my life depended on one person, living or dead, to throw it to save my life. I want Albee throwing it for me.
I'm right there.
Over Roth. Roth was great when he needed it. I would take Mike Albee in the clutch for whatever's on the line. I'm
right there with you.
And it's a shame that he never bowled on the senior tour. He got into the proprietor side of the business.
Yep, he sure did.
Runs a center in Indianapolis, but I mean, there's not.
You know what, better. Mike was always a very studious, strategic, well-planned, educated man.
Yeah.
Mike took those bowling earnings, man. He invested it properly where he had to. He dedicated the rest of his life to the important things, man. He's got his family, his home, his business. He gets to be home when he wants, go out and do what he wants when he wants. And that's, I think, everybody's dream.
You know what's amazing, too, about Albee? He wasn't a one-dimensional lefty. And I know you guys have, and I say you, because I'm categorizing you as the lefties. Lefties have that persona of, you can only play 4, you can only play up 10, you can only play the gutter. Albee won from every part of the lane.
Yeah, and basically the place that he played the lane the least was where most lefties played, which is up the second arrow. Albee either won from the first arrow, the fifth arrow, the third arrow, or the fourth arrow.
I would love to get to do the splits of what he won pre-resin to post-resin.
I'm sure we could figure that out.
I think
now, because you're introducing resin in, say, 92, 93?
Yeah.
I mean, we can probably, between you and I, because we have 2 of the best bowling brains ever, we could probably figure out how many titles on air right now with nothing in front of us.
Probably.
How many were won with resin. I mean, you could start with the Tournament of Champions in 95. He won with the coup de C.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 1.
Yeah, that's 1. He won all of his majors minus the TSC with urethane.
Mm-hmm.
He won 2 national championships with urethane.
Even the Masters in Reno on the show that Parker shot 300 throwing the Attitude 3.
Nobody knows that was a urethane ball.
That was the Black Brunswick Blitz.
Nobody knew that.
Yeah, and I did because I loved that bowling ball. I thought it was fantastic. But he even threw urethane on synthetic lanes in 1998. I mean,
and you know what's amazing? And the guys, and I say the guys, like the kids today, today's generation, have no clue how good that man really was.
And they never will.
No.
And he did it seemingly so effortlessly. He always looked like how does that ball not flat 7 every single frame? That really gentle, both fingers together too, so there's even less stability from the index finger. It all made no sense, but God, man, you look at the bottom, it was just so pure.
And exactly, and he would rip your throat out with a smile on his face. He sounded like Litchie. He would rip your throat out with a smile on his face.
Totally.
And owned the doubles tournament on tour. Yes,
he sure did.
And who was his partner in the doubles tournament every year, John?
I'm going to go with Steve Cook.
Yeah, the Cookie Monster.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, that's another guy that unfortunately got wiped out when resin came out.
Yeah. Talk about another dynamic brother-in-law duo to join Parker Bone and Doug Kent.
Parker and Doug. How many other guys out there are there? Jess Stayrook, Dave Arnold,
mm-hmm.
Dougie and Parker.
That's Mike all I know.
Mike and Steve Cook. Yeah, I don't think there's many other ones, right?
Not that I know of.
Let's bang out. Let's do one more state, and we'll call it a night.
Sounds good.
Let's let's go. I'll do one. Let's go to the South. The South doesn't really have many players. Like look at the state of Virginia, it's Richie Wolf. There's no doubt about it. It's Richie Wolf. Greatest player to never win a title, Richie Wolf. I'll give him the state of Virginia. Yeah, South Carolina, I have two. Tommy Jones, Dick Allen is Tommy Jones. Hands down. There's no argument there. If you want to go to North Carolina, Guppy, George, Kyle Troop. That's another one for another day.
Want to do Florida?
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to do.
All right.
Now, a lot of guys have migrated to Florida, right?
Yeah.
Like Norm.
Well, there are some you could add to your list of 3 here.
I think I've left a couple out.
Okay. Right now, you obviously
Tarpon
have
Springs, Florida is the guy I left out.
No, Tarpon. You have Steve Hoskins on your list.
Oh yes, I do. It's been a long day, bud.
John Janowitz, again, big amateur player. If you're not familiar with anything other than the Pro Tour, Jason Couch, obviously, always a Claremont native. But you have to also keep in mind Steve Wilson is from Fort Lauderdale.
Steve Wilson, there's a name from the past.
Mm-hmm. Bob Vespi.
Ask Rudy how he feels about Bob Vespi.
I know that Randy Peterson is from California, but he moved to Hollywood, Florida halfway through. I guess you can include him there if you wanted to. And then the other transplants, like Walter Ray is California. He's not Florida. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And everybody else that's relocated there ever since. But those would be some other names that I would throw into the running. But simply stated, my Floridian is pretty taken based off.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it the lefty?
It's the lefty.
See, and I'll agree with you, but you got to give Janowitz his props.
I don't take anything away from John Janowitz, but if I personally feel that John Janowitz, if you want to bunch John Janowitz with Alex Aguiar and Adam Barta and those guys at the amateur level and the Team USA level and things like that, I totally get it. But I just flat out don't think that John Janowitz, if he bowled Jason Couch in 10 3-game total wood matches, that he would win 6 of them. I just don't foresee it happening because you're talking about comparing 2 guys that I would assume are similar in age at this point. I'm assuming JJ
just turned 50 this year.
So similar in age to Couch.
Yep.
Brand new seniors. So they both have stood the test of time. They've both been around and been very good players for a very, very long time, right? But Jason Couch won the Tournament of Champions 3 consecutive times. Jason Couch was Rookie of the Year in 1992, and now it's 2022, and he's still in the running for Player of the Year on the Senior Tour.
See, that's where I get it, and I agree with you. But John did it a different way. Like, John had a full-time job. John, being what I think is he's as the best amateur in the world is Janowitz. Granted, he has all the Eagles, the Team USAs, all his accomplishments in the mega buck stuff. Like, every year at the Masters, he's always making a run at the Masters. Every year at the U.S. Open, every year. I think if Janowitz would have bowled on tour, he goes to the winner's circle.
Oh, 1,000. He goes to the winner's circle several times, Mike.
He's like Timmy Mack. I classify Janowitz in that Timmy Mack level.
Okay.
Like Timmy's going to the winner's circle.
Considering the fact that I think Timmy Mack is one of the greatest amateurs of all time as well, why did Timmy never won on tour?
No, he should. And Timmy went on tour when he was broken.
Later,
you know what I mean?
Broken, he was ailing. I get all of that.
If Timmy went on tour instead of going international, Timmy goes to the winner's circle probably a dozen times.
100%.
Janowitz is the same way. I firmly believe that.
I just don't think John Janowitz would win 18 titles and 3 consecutive Tournament of Champions either. I don't think John Janowitz is necessarily a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame if he goes on the PBA Tour. I don't care how much somebody whacks him on different avenues of the sport when The pinnacle level is the PBA Tour, and the
Yeah.
best bowlers on the planet are on the PBA Tour. You have to beat those guys in order to get my vote.
So I'm going to give you this one. I'll end it with this.
All right.
We both love Mike Newman.
Yes.
Arguably, the greatest amateur to ever put on a pair of bowling shoes was Mike Newman, right? So all the high rollers, all the World Team Challenges, all the, international success, everything Newman did, right? If he never won on tour, but his career kept going, like I know Mike had personal issues and he stopped bowling and whatnot, would we ever give an amateur like the accolade of becoming the best bowler out of said state? Look at Virginia. Let's take the state of Virginia. It was Richie Wolf. The only guy I can think of was Richie Wolf out of the state of Virginia. Richie Wolf never won on the tour, but now you have a guy like Mike Newman who's won all around the world, Eagles, high rollers, everything. Would you ever give that title to a guy like Newman over a guy who bowled on tour for 20 years but never went to the winner's circle?
Yes.
Or a guy that won on tour? Like look at Charlie Tapp. Let's just say Newman came out of Minnesota. Charlie Tapp has 3 titles on the national tour and like
I would give it to Newman.
So you would do it then?
Yes.
But you can't justify it over a couch or Tommy Jones or a Troop.
If Mike Newman lived in New York and he was still bowling to this day, he wouldn't be better than Mark Roth to me.
I agree with you.
But if Mike Newman lived in Delaware, he would be better than Jim Johnson Jr.
Jim Johnson Jr.
If he lived in Rhode Island, he'd be better than John Van Hees. If he lived in Maine, not Maine because Voss is there, he wouldn't be better in Maine because Voss is there. But to me, Christ, it would be a toss-up to compare him to Pete Couture, even though Pete Couture won a shitload on the tour and the senior tour. There are certain exceptions, and Mike Newman would have been one of them in specific said states.
I'm gonna bring this one up, and I want to get a little more info from this guy Steve here. A way to fix the game, sport integrity of bowling without costing a bunch of business to the proprietors won't be easy but possible. So, what's the solution then, John?
This is another hour if you want to talk about how to save bowling, because there is a way to save bowling you save it with money. You save it with money and marketing it correctly. Go check out Rob Piershad's latest article that was published on page 16 of Jeff Riggle's little blog thing there. That explains it pretty well. But the way to make bowling better and to be more integrity and all the other thing is you got to make it exciting. You got to make it exciting to a viewer. You got to make people able to bet on it, number one. You have to create a little bit of rivalry in some aspect, and you need money, and you need sponsors, and you need backing. You need to not sign contracts with television networks such as ESPN and then be the only sport in the history of being broadcast on ESPN that pays them so you can be live for an hour and a half. $250,000 an episode. The PBA was paying ESPN to be on there. I mean that, and then meanwhile our sponsors are Guaranteed Rate and Denny's and all these smaller companies. Whereas if you turn on the Golf Channel, it's Mercedes, it's NetJets, it's Workday.
Just go to YouTube, go into the mid '90s. AC Delco, True Value, Choice Hotels,
General Tire,
Quaker State, General Tire, Bud Light.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you had everything. You at least had bigger sponsors. You had 150 entries a week. You had 42,000, 36,000 on top every single week. You paid 52 spots. And the last check was enough money to actually cover what you spent that week. At least that made it more likely for a journeyman pro to go out there and possibly make a living. Nowadays, the PBA Tour looks like the old ladies tour used to look. And what I mean by that is there's a very, very small batch of bowlers that make it to the top every week. There's if 100 guys bowl, only 20 of those guys have a chance, very comparable to the earlier stages of the PWBA Tour. You would always see Michelle Feldman, Kelly, Liz Johnson, Tish Johnson, Dee Dee Davidson, Alita Sill, Kim Adler, Tammy Turner,
Yep.
Leanne Barrett. There would always be this Kendra Gaines. There would always be the same
Kim
names.
Terrell. Yep.
Exactly. Wendy McPherson, Cara Honeychurch. We got them almost all of them now, Mike. There's only probably 4 more that had a chance to win. That's kind of what the PBA has become now.
Well, every tour stop you're going to see Simonson, Belmo, and Troop. One of those 3 are in the finals every time.
Prather, Tackett,
Frankie Lavoie,
Butters, Jesper will be the 2 lefties competitive that week. And every once in a while, you'll see a different random lefty make a show, like a Brandon Runk or a Kevin Williams. And that's what it is these days.
You have the option of having one job. You can become the lead play-by-play guy for every PBA telecast, or you become the commissioner of the PBA. What do you want?
Lead play-by-play guy.
Really? You wouldn't
100%.
want to try to? You really want to? Oh, we've always said since we were kids, we would be dynamite calling a show.
I will say it loud and clear now for anybody that's curious about how I feel about this. I truly believe. I don't pat myself on the back for a lot of things. I mean, you listen to my show. I'm usually very humble and modest, especially when it comes to bowling. I am excellent at commentating bowling. I am better than anybody I've ever heard commentate bowling.
We used to do it as kids.
Other than Bo Burton.
Exactly. We would mute the shows and do it ourselves.
Absolutely. We know how to explain situations. We know how to make the bowlers relatable, which is another problem with the sport of bowling. Nowadays, the commentary leans towards making it funny, talking about cracking open a 6-pack with the beer or chasing 300 in the 7th frame like it's a normal thing for somebody to have the front 7 on every show. You're talking about the way the oil changes and the breakpoint shape and board 6.4. People just want to know what ball is going down the lane when they watch it. They kind of want to know how to keep score. They kind of want to hear a little bit of backstory, get a little bit more involved with the player rather than all this technical jargon that you throw at them every week. And then all the jokes on the side, the gravy train with the biscuit wheels and the slippery as a sea otter's stomach and as hoppy as a kangaroo's Joey. I mean, it's nonsense where you could actually be saying, if Watka gets up in the 10th frame here, Watka gets up in the 10th frame, needs double 8 in order to advance past EJ Tackett. If he does this, guys, this puts him in the top 32 in points and makes him eligible to compete in X, Y, and Z next year. The thought process he must be experiencing right now. This is how you have to work through this moment because these next 3 shots are the biggest 3 shots of this guy's life. Nobody makes it intimate anymore. It's all just, we expect everybody to shoot 260 this game. So now we may as well tell everybody how they're doing it, what path they're getting there. There's no more. It's really, really disgusting to listen to. It really is. I'm very, very upset with the way it's gone.
I love bowling more than anything. You know that. Mm-hmm. But the tour has become unwatchable. The shows have become basically unwatchable. You don't need to have it looking like a nightclub. You realize by that setup they have behind the bowlers, how many seats they take out of play?
One of the greatest things about the older shows was seeing how many people were actually there to watch bowling. Now it's like they're going out of their way to make it look like, hey, nobody wants to come watch, so we'll make sure you know that too.
When we used to have
the other thing, sorry to cut you off, Mike.
Go ahead.
The other thing that drives me crazy. This goes back to the top of your show where I said I can't stand ignorance and stupidity in people.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you could do something for so long and not learn a single thing about it. For instance, Kimberly Pressler.
Okay.
You have somebody standing there as a sideline reporter, and her only job is to interview the 2 bowlers standing in front of her, and she has 30 to 45 seconds with each of them, and not once has the woman ever asked a question with any substance. Not once has the woman ever been aware of what's actually going on in the tournament. There is no substance. It looks like such a C rating production when you send her out there to talk to the greatest athlete to ever put on bowling shoes week in and week out, and she doesn't even know how to handle an interview. It bothers me to my core, and I hate to say it, but it's the absolute God's honest truth on top of the traditional commentary of the show.
When we used to have it on ABC, you would have commercial break on the 4th, commercial on the 7th. When you came back from the 7th frame, after that first shot was thrown, we're throwing it to Bo in the back with the guy coming up in the next match, or said random guy who's hanging around at the telecast to interview the guy coming up the number 3 seed.
Exactly.
Right? You'd have
and to interview the loser. each game as
and
well.
exactly, you'd have the loser of the match coming up. Boom, like it's a shame that it's gone. And Kimberly, look, she's good at what she does, but she's not a bowler. Like you want to have. Why do you think Tom Brady signed a contract with Fox for what $300 million when he retires? They want that experience calling a football game. Why do you think Alex Rodriguez calls a baseball game for ESPN? You know, Nick Faldo when he does golf on CBS. You want guys with that experience. So Randy's okay. Yeah, Randy's kind of corny with the jokes. But can you put somebody next to Randy that actually is not Rob Stone?
Dude, what I mean by the ignorance is when you do something, you learn things by doing something with repetition just by being around it.
Yeah.
Like when you go to the gym now, the 45-pound weights are not weights, they are plates. A plate goes on a machine. If you didn't know it was called a plate, you would know it was called a plate if you went to the gym for a month because you would hear the term plate.
Yeah.
You understand different, like if I walk into, I'm trying to think of a good, you know what, screw it. I live in Vegas and it's legal here. If I walk into a dispensary, if I was actually going to buy marijuana 10 years ago, I would have walked in the store and said, hi, I need some marijuana. Now I know the difference between what an indica, a sativa, and a hybrid is because I've been in a dispensary more than once.
Yeah.
So I now know to go in there and say, so what's the difference between a sativa and a hybrid? So
It's
I know
like
the next
going
time I walk in, I don't look like an asshole.
It's like going to Starbucks when you get a venti, a grande, a lot. It's the same
thing.
How
many years does Kimberly Pressler have to interview people on the sideline and still say, so how do you think you're going to play today? Nobody in the bowling world says they're going to play.
See,
Nobody
I say
says
that. I say that as a joke. I'm
right.
going to play bowling.
We say it as a joke. That's what's far beyond learning that we don't actually play. We bowl a game.
Yeah.
What are you going to do this game? I mean, that's the shit where I say, I don't understand how you can be around something all day, every day, and then never absorb a single ounce of it.
So I can't believe you'd rather have that than try to fix the PBA.
Oh, please, dude. If I was the commissioner of the PBA, I say that I would be a good commish, but the problem about that is I'm not very good with direct confrontation with people because half the time I'm too embarrassed to put them in their place because I don't want to upset them or hurt them because what they're saying is so fucking wrong. And the other times I'm so subjective to what people have to say and I'm willing to do it because it is a good idea. But I mean, you know as well as I do, bro, and half the personalities on the PBA tour, you know, they're going to come at you with their own personal issues and they think they think you're responsible for the personal problems they have in the tour. One of the reasons Tom Clark has no hair is because he not only has to deal with his own problems and his family issues, whatever they may be, he's got to deal with the issues of every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's on the PBA tour.
There we go. Involve all parts of the industry, USBC, BPAA, major manufacturers, the PBA. It's more than just putting the integrity back on the lanes or the equipment.
Like we said earlier, Steve, we could talk about that forever, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yeah. One of the biggest problems in our sport is the similar problem that happens in golf. The two big governing bodies of the sport can't stand each other. They refuse to work together. They refuse to believe that one or the other can help each other as a whole. It's exactly why the U.S. Open is the least watched program when you watch the golf tour, because it's the one major that's not actually hosted by the PGA.
PGA Tour, yeah.
They take two par fives and make them par fours, and they make a score of even turn into a score of +8 before the event even starts. And the course is ugly and it's dirty and it looks like shit. That's kind of the way the USBC is when it comes to trying to merge with the PGA or PBA Tour.
And when did the BPAA stop sponsoring and running the U.S. Open?
I don't remember.
And now it's not even the U.S. Open; it's the U.S. Invitational. I'm sorry. And you get invited, was there a field of 90 guys to hold the U.S. Open? Mm-hmm. I mean, come on. I mean, but that's the U.S. Open. You know?
Yeah, because typically it is open to all people that would like to bowl it.
Steve is apparently now number 2.
I plan to instruct bowling to all who want, mainly schools where competitive bowling is thriving. That's a great idea also.
Look, we bowled for a school that had one of the best programs in the country. We did.
Again, that's all fine and dandy, but you need people that are interested in the sport in order to do that. For instance, the Kegel Training Center is one of the most premier places you could possibly go to want to get better at bowling.
Yep.
But the people that go there are bowlers. They're bowlers that go to schools. The colleges. There are very, very small handful of bowlers still interested in getting to the highest level of the sport, which in turn brings more money, brings more crowd, and all of that stuff. So it's a convo that you can just open floodgates. Golf has lost more players or rounds played over the last 20 years than bowling has.
I don't know about that. Bowling's on the down. It's on the downside. It's been on the downside for a long time.
Maybe because in golf, people realize that they'll never make it to the pinnacle
They're never
level.
beating Tiger Woods. Yeah.
They're never beating the 100th best player in your state. Forget about Tiger Woods. Again, that's the problem. We could discuss all the million different ways to try and fix bowling, but the fact of the matter is it's a dying sport in a technologically advancing world, and we have to do something completely outside of the norm while sticking to the guns of the heritage of the sport to some extent to keep it liable.
Last 2 minutes. If bowling had something like the Live Tour has for golf, you think it would be a success?
If the Live Tour and bowling catered to a larger population of bowlers, i.e., most league bowlers don't give a shit about the PBA Tour.
No.
But most league bowlers drink. So if you had a Live Tour where it was actually all like Rob Pierce had said from Sweep the Rack, if you had a tour of half-drunk league bowlers that were going out there vying for large money, similar idea to something like, say, DraftKings or Caesar Sportsbook or MGM or Fox Sports Bet. You allow people that are normal people to enter a world where they can compete for not normal people money. That's a good idea. So you put, let's say, the best house hack bowlers from all across the country, and they compete in their own local house hack tournament the way that they would normally, half drunk on a Thursday evening at 9 p.m., and their scores over time. Now you take the best 3 league hacks from each state, and you have centralized tournaments, and then you have side betting on side matches at that tournament, and $1 million first prize, and you pay 50 spots. You'd get a lot of people to enter that tournament. If you told them $5 of their $30 sanction fee annually went to the first annual Drunk Fest, Bowling Drunk Fest, $1 million first place, your league dues are paid with this extra $5. Now you take your 2 million members and you got $10 million tournament. People go and drink and get, that would, and then you could bet on it on top of it, like Beer Fest or like basketball. We make fun of that movie, but honestly, would you join a trio team to shoot hoops in your yard while getting drunk and trying to make somebody laugh? If you knew you had money at the end of the rainbow, sure.
Can I tell you what we wanted to do?
Yeah,
and I just learned this about a month or so ago. So I bowl league at Ocean Lanes. All right. And the people that live in Lakewood.
I sure do.
Okay. There's a league at Ocean Lanes on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. It's a second shift. It is all those people. I don't want to say what they are. I don't want to get in trouble, but it's all those people. They're not very good bowlers. They're not. It's a 4-person scratch league. It's open. Okay? Now, there's not a scratch league in Monmouth County or Ocean County. There is not.
Okay.
This particular league is scratch. It's $2,500 to join the league. So, like everything, like a sponsor fee. It's $200 sponsor fee, $50 a man on a 4-man team. It's $2,500 to join the league at 22 teams. It's only 12 weeks. You pay $25 a night. That $2,500 goes right to the prize fund. Of those 22 teams, they take the top 4 for the playoffs, and you're bowling for all that money.
Wow.
Now I ask you this: why am I not bowling in that league? Why am I not stacking a team of 4 guys and try to rob them? It's not a good look. I mean, it is. You know what I'm talking about. It's not a good look. But would you ever find a league with that much money in it? No. Or any kind of an event. If I was going to run like Alex Aguirre, I'm sorry, Chris Vialli is running a big tournament this coming weekend up in New England. It's plug for Vialli. It's like an old Mega Buck style tournament. The whole weekend up in New England. And I believe it's like, I could be wrong. I may be giving false information, like $5 or $10 for first. There's a lot of money in this tournament this weekend up in New England. And Vialli and his wife are running it. If you were to say, I want to have a tournament, $1,000 entry fee, a long, let's just say 42 game format. The center gives you a deal with lines. How many people would show up?
Give me
There's
one more.
not many guys are going to show up. If you had a tournament, let's say it's $1,000 to bowl.
Okay.
$1,000. You take your lineage out. You have a sponsor, whatever. But it's $1,000 to enter. And let's just say it's a 42 game format, like the old PBA, 18 to qualify and the rest in match play.
Open to anyone?
Anyone. I don't care who you are. How many guys are showing up to bowl that? And I'll even say this, because everybody's a prima donna and everybody's, all an expert on lane play and whatnot. You wall them up.
You what?
You wall them up. Because if you make them,
if you wall them up, you would have no entries.
But then if you make them impossible, you're only going to get 25 guys, and they're all tour guys. How is you just said the league guy, right? The 235 guy on a Thursday night. How is he beating Chris Prather when they're 2-1? He's not. Like, I'm going to bowl in St. Louis in 2 weeks, the holiday doubles. All right. It's the premier doubles tournament probably of the year in the country. And they are stone cold walled. They have openly said, we put the house shot out, have at it. But you get all these guys that come out to bowl on tour. Simonson, Troop, Butters, Prather's there. They all come out. If you make them hard, nobody shows up. You make them easy. What's the happy medium, John? For $1,000 entry fee, what are you putting out?
If they're easy for everybody, then the best bowlers are still going to make it to the top.
Correct.
If you make them easy enough for everybody. In other words, the common misconception is that when they're easy, the lefties run them over. When they're way too easy, yes, the lefties run them over.
Especially if they're short.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you can't make them too easy, but the problem is if you make them even a touch hard on the left, then you wipe out all the lefties. That's always the biggest dilemma. It's righty-lefty. Even the two-handed to one-handed isn't as big of a dilemma as the righty-lefty.
No.
I think, and I've always said this, if it's that big of an illustrious of a tournament and you're worried about it and you're worried about how to separate it, have a separate cut for lefties and righties. I mean, that's one avenue, but you can never, ever do it perfectly. I mean, the USBCs this year, the USBCs was dominated by right-handers. Fucking dominated by right-handers. Dominated. Nobody says a word about it.
No, but when you go to Reno in years past.
Yes, absolutely. It's dominated by left-handers, and everybody talks about it. Matt McNeil only shot 23-26 because he's lefty. He shot 23-26 for 9 games. Do that math in your head.
Yeah, and Matt McNeil is also really fucking good.
Right. Yeah, just do that math in your head, please. I averaged 272 at the 777 tournament last month for 9 games.
You bowled pretty good.
You could safely say they were walled that day, but you can also say that I struck 11 times a game for 4.5 hours.
But see, John, that's where I disagree with people. People say, well, they're so walled, I don't care how easy they are. You still have to execute. You got to come out of the ball the same. Okay, so you have 7 boards to throw to, but you got to come out of it clean. You don't want to grab it.
If I bowled Mike, I always hit him with facts. Like, do you guys realize if I opened for 7 straight games, if I started with the front 6 and went 9 spare sheet, I would have shot 268 every single game, which is 4 pins lower than I averaged for the 7 games. Just to put it into perspective, if I left 2 ring and 7s a game, I would have averaged lower than I averaged in that tournament. To me, that's not only having the lane, that's executing well and having the right ball and staying in the right frame of mind for the duration of the event. So on a house shot, as long as they're not super, super caked, you're going to have guys like Prather and Troop averaging 250. Simonelli and Buttroff may average 254, but at least it's close. Nobody's going to average 280. No. And if somebody averages 270,
good for you,
bro. Nice bowling. That's actually still considered nice bowling to me. If you make them impossible, you'll get a smaller turnout than you would on a modified house shot. If you make them, it's I'm such a logical thinker when it comes to that, but most people are not logical. That's especially in this sport. Most people are little nuts in this sport.
Oh, they're very nuts.
Yeah, but I'm definitely favorable of making them easier rather than harder.
Easy brings everybody in.
Everybody bitches and still shows up when they're easy.
I bowled our Ocean County Masters last weekend. Okay, and it was right on the application, bowling on the house shot. You knew what you were getting walking in the door. Now, granted, it's a Masters tournament. Okay, whatever, no problem. They walled them up. 240 over was the leader for 5, and the cut score was 142, 145 over for 5. So the scores were kind of high. All right. People complain. Well,
how many made it to the
15
finals?
Plus champion.
And how many bowled?
There's 60 entries.
So a quarter of the field averaged 230.
I got the plus 163 for my 5. I got in. All right.
Nice bowling.
Not really. I was 17 over after 3. How did I bowl the back 2?
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. But again, you knew what you were getting yourself into. People complain. Well, it's too easy. No, you can't make everybody happy. Bring the dog on TV, John.
She doesn't let me pick her up.
Nah, that's all right.
I mean, she does sometimes.
You can't make anybody happy.
Come on.
Or make everybody happy.
She's afraid to jump on the couch. She's like 4 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, I know.
So she can't.
But she does chase the hell.
Oh, that's right. You've been here.
She chases the hell of a golf ball, though.
No, that's the other one. This is the little. This is a really little one. She's just walking around. She's probably because she knows I have to go help Rochelle move some tables, and we've been live for an hour and 30.
Let's wrap it up. We can. I'm sure you'll be back.
Anytime you want. Yeah, and I love doing this.
Yep. Likewise with you. Johnny will be straight up 5 tomorrow night, right?
Yep. Unveiling my top 10 balls of all time.
What, John? Do you remember your first 20 or the first 10?
Yeah.
All right. Read them off. I didn't watch it, so I like to know it.
Number 20, I had the Avalanche Solid.
Okay.
Number 19 was the Command Zone. Number 18.
That red one. That was that red maroon
that
thing,
plum,
right?
Yeah, that plum pearl.
Yeah, okay.
18 was the Time Zone.
That was a phenomenal bowling ball.
17 was the original Siege.
Okay.
16 was the Attitude 3. Let me see here what 15 was.
We have not gone out of the Brunswick family yet.
Oh, I have my list here. Good. 15 was the Monster Smasher or Smash
That was
R.
the blue and orange one. That was a good bowling ball.
Yep. 14 was the Fuse Eliminator.
Okay.
13 was the Danger Zone HPC.
Ooh.
12 was the Purple Pearl Power Blitz.
Oh.
11 was the Ultimate Inferno.
That was a good bowling ball.
And number 10 was the Ebonite Apex Adrenaline.
Those are Johnny's 10 through 20.
Yeah.
I like these lists that you're compiling. I'll propose this now. I'm sure you're gonna say yes. We should work together and do maybe like a top 10 telecasts of all time.
I would love to do that.
That could be a good one.
That's fantastic.
Top 10 amateurs that never bowled on tour. We can do a lot of fun with this.
100%.
And your partner, thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Francois.
Thank you, Rob. We'll work together. We can do this. We will be back together again soon, I'm sure. But this was the first episode here of Over the Cap, John, and I think it went pretty well.
I thought so too. It was a pleasure being part of it. It kind of feels like we're just doing what we would normally do, whether we were talking about it to everybody else or not.
We'll get viewership up. I'm still learning the platform, so I'll make this a little bit better. We're gonna try to. I'm gonna do this every Tuesday at 7:00. Love you too, Rob. We'll do it. I'm doing it every Tuesday at 7. We're gonna finish the states eventually. We're gonna also shoot for doing it on Friday nights as well. I thought about doing them a little different on a Friday, John. But I bowl league Thursday, and I hate Ocean Lanes with a passion. That place should be like an Amazon distribution center. It should be imploded to the ground and rebuilt as like something else. But I think what I'll do on a Friday after league, obviously not this week or the Thanksgiving, do like a league recap of how much I hate myself, how bad I bowled there, averaging 230, and I hate myself. And then I'll do like football picks for the rest of the season. Could be different. Could be like Mike's picks of the week.
Sounds great, and you could
John,
you could at least bring me on while I'm still incapacitated and unable to work right now. But
so probably next Tuesday, Johnny will be back with me next Tuesday. But everybody, thank you for watching. Subscribe on the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, and have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy
Now, I got to
Thanksgiving
figure out how to
everybody.
end this. So, yeah, everybody have a safe holiday, and we'll see you next Tuesday.